Hey, it's Benjie Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio, welcoming you to another edition of People of Distinction. The talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org, for more info, or you can email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Marvina Sims. We'll be discussing her book, Brittle Never Broken, available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And Marvina was brought to People of Distinction today by some of the best movers in the business, Parchment Global Publishing. If you have a book that you'd like moved, move it to Parchment. You can find them at parchmentglobalpublishing.com. And guys, I am so excited to have Marvina here on the line with us because the book we're going to be discussing, Brittle Never Broken, is really, listen, it's a story of perseverance. It's a story of determination and just downright grit, and something that we truly need in our human family right now, okay? Listen, let's not shy away from it. It seems like we've been talking about this forever. This pandemic... Listen, guys, it seems like it's been here forever, and I don't really see an end in the very near future, right? I mean, it seems like we're right in the thick of it right now, and we're all facing a lot of challenges and a lot of adversity. And what's wonderful about this book that we're about to journey on, that Marvina has brought to our table, listen, it's a memoir, and it talks specifically about her particular experiences. But at the end of the day, the underlying message, one of the biggest things to really be pulled from it is that, listen, guys, we're all going to face our share of adversity on our life's journey, on our path. It is what it is. That's just human, right? I mean, it's just going to be like that sometimes. But what's wonderful about the underlying message is through that persistence, through that determination, you can overcome any obstacles. Right. And no one's saying it's going to be easy. And just because you overcome one doesn't mean that that's it. You're clear coasting for the rest of your life. You know, listen, that's just the hills and valleys that we go through. But this is just one story among many. But what an amazing story that Marvina is about to share with us. And her experiences are absolutely incredible. So listen, without further ado, let's bring her here on the line with us. Marvina, first and foremost, thank you so much for being a guest with us on People of Distinction. How are you today?
I'm pretty good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate this.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we appreciate it more, okay? We're very much looking forward to this. As I stated to you in the pre-screening call, as I just talked to our listeners, this is something we need right now. So I'm very excited to have you here, and it truly is an honor. Now, before we go into the book itself, okay, let's hold off slightly. Let's build that temptation just a little bit more. Tell our listening audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I have the short version, and one of my favorite songs I like to sing real quick. It goes, I come from a poor family. I didn't have much, but the Lord's been good to me. That's my short version. Now, the long version, I would say July 17, 1938, Mae Jones, that is my mom, was born. And it's because of her that I am able to be here today at this point, at this position in life. I was born into a poor family, and you talk about all types of adversities. And like you said earlier, there are multiple ones. And just because you get over the hurdle on one doesn't mean that's it. And I am a testimony that that is the case for my life. I was born with brittle bones, which is also the doctor term for it is osteogenesis imperfecta. And the thing is, back in let's say I was born in 1968. So back then, the doctors weren't as tech savvy or, smart as they were now about the disease. But I had it apparently since I was a baby, but they didn't know it. I didn't know officially until I was 2 years old, and I was walking around able to run when I fell and broke a leg, which that was my constant thing, constantly breaking my legs. It never affected, well, I could say I broke a rib too, but other parts, my other limbs were okay. But it wasn't until that fall that I was finally diagnosed and was able to get cared for. And then on top of my dilemma of being constantly in the hospital, going through surgery, physical therapy. And back then I was attending the hospital where I stayed in the hospital for physical therapy. Now they'll send you home in a heartbeat and let you come back to return. But my mom was also battling with being a single mom and her own mental illness. So she had to hold it together for me. And I had two other siblings. So she was able to make it happen for all of us as kids. We never had to go without food. We always had shelter. And I don't ever recall anything being cut off, despite the fact that she was on welfare. And we lived in Rockwell Gardens Projects, the Chicago Housing Authority. So, but today, my life is totally different. You would not know that I am the person that went through what I did back then. And I'm truly grateful that I can sit here and say this to you today. I was able to still function and be independent. So I was able to get a job with the federal government. So I worked there for 17 years until I went on disability again. And I am a homeowner. I drive my own car. I'm independent. And I made it through. That's the key word here. I made it through. And so I'm able to sit here and tell people, no matter what you're going through, it's possible to get out of it if you just hang in there. And let me just say, I also, through all of that, I had to deal with my mom wanting to commit suicide or attempting to commit suicide. And likewise, I too wanted to die because of my condition. If you've ever broken a bone, you know the type of pain that is. And then to have to get cut on, that is painful too. After surgery, when you come out, it's horrible. I went through an ordeal. And so that's why I'm like, at that time, I couldn't see it getting any better. But now that it has gotten better, I want others to know that no matter what you're going through, it does get better. Just hang in there.
Wow, Marvina, what an inspirational story. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, man, there's so much to unpack there. Now, your book is a memoir, right? So, of course, you've already
Correct.
started to go into it in some of your experiences. And, you shared with us one particular example in terms of, this was a disease that you were born with, and it wasn't really diagnosed until you were 2 years old. So for the first 2 years of your life, you're living with this that they didn't even know. And I'm sure you felt it, but you weren't really sure on how to explain it, right? Now,
exactly.
That is absolutely incredible. So you talked to us a little bit about the book. Of course, we know about your background. Listen, I think it's safe to assume where the title comes from, but you know what happens when you assume, Marvina, so I'm not going to go there. Brittle Never Broken.
Know about this.
Brittle Never Broken. Talk to us about that title. What does it mean to you? How did you develop that creatively and bring that into fruition?
Oh, yeah. I went through several titles. I wrote down, I can remember a few of them. I had a name called Akin to Glass, Brittle, how did I put it? Brittle but Not Broken. So I played with several titles for a while, and I just let it sit there, and then I'll go back to it, and I'll look at it again. And so then I started to think, okay, brittle does refer to my condition of my bones. However, I can recall my spirit and my heart being broken a whole lot deeper than my bones, and a whole lot more painful than my bones have experienced. Because when you're emotionally hurt, your heart is broken. It takes a longer time to heal. So I started comparing it after my first heartbreak. I said to myself, if I had to choose between getting my bones broken or getting my heart broken, it would definitely be my bones, because it only takes so many weeks before I'm healed again. The pain is over. But that heart, oh my God, when that heart is broken, it's almost like this is never going to end.
Absolutely.
So I use the word brittle to also refer to emotions and heartbreak. And so I said, now, even though you can become brittle, that doesn't mean you have to stay broken. And so that's where I got Brittle Never Broken from. I hope I made sense. Was that clear on that explanation?
That was crystal clear, Marvina. Thank you so
Okay.
much for it. Listen, and that's why I love I love the title, but I love the underlying message of this book. I think that what you're discussing is so universal and so relatable. Of course, listen, it's a memoir. You're talking about your specific experience. And of course, we're able to follow along this journey with you. But I think what is so commendable about what you've been able to orchestrate here is, again, that relatability. No matter which reader, whatever their background may be, whatever their personal experiences may be, they'll be able to pick up this book and instantly relate to it. Because even though if they can't relate specifically to, again, the disease you have, and my apologies, the technical name, you said it, I know what it means, but I can't remember it myself. But
you can just call it OI. It's short for osteogenesis imperfecta. OI is the real simple term.
OI, yeah, that is much simpler. So you're talking about your experience, and again, as we started, being 2 years old, the first time, you said that you were diagnosed with this because you had broken your bone. And again, someone like me, for instance, I've played sports all my life. I have older brothers. Very, very lucky that I have never broken a bone. I've sprained I've probably sprained each one of my ankles at least 10 times. Through all the years of playing sports, basketball was my biggest one. So of course, it's very dependent on constantly running and jumping and things that way. But again, I've had my fair share of injuries, but I've never actually broken anything. So even though I can't relate to that particularly, as you said, right, just the word brittle has so many meanings in terms of where it could be applied. And I love the fact that anybody that picks up this book will be able to relate to their own share of challenges that they've gone through. And again, as you stated, the underlying message is, listen, guys, it says it right there in the title, Brittle Never Broken. You're going to take your share of bumps and bruises and scrapes across, your journey. But at the end of the day, it's not going to break you. Right. And it doesn't have to break you. It may not be easy. It's going to take some time to get past it and get through it. But at the end of the day, you're never broken. You'll just be able to consistently persevere if you stay on that. Keep your head down, keep pushing forward, and overcome those challenges. I think that is such a beautiful and a magnificent message. Now, next question that I wanted to go into, Marvina, is I know why this book was important to you, and we know the underlying message there. Why do you feel that this was something that really needed to be put out for the public to be able to partake in it as well? And it wasn't just a message that you constantly told yourself to get yourself through these challenges, or maybe something that you spoke to verbally with your loved ones or your people around you, but something you really wanted to put on page to put out for the public as well.
I have to be honest with you. I don't feel like I had a choice when it was time for me to write. I decided, it was just a feeling in me. If I had to choose, just like, how you have something you have to do, but it won't let you get past it until it's done.
Absolutely.
It's that constant reminder, that feel. I'm not quite sure of the word I'm looking for, but it's one of those things where I could not be at peace had I not written this book. And it took me 10 years to finish it. That's just how much I grappled with it. And then as I was writing it was something that I would put aside, and then I would have to go back to it, put aside. The thing that really got to me was having to relive those moments. That was the worst. I had forgotten about a lot of things until I started going back deeper, thinking back and thinking, and it started coming to me clear as if I was there again. And I'll never forget one time I was actually typing, and I remember being in the hospital, going through physical therapy, because that was a lot of pain too, getting back into getting the stiffness out of my joints.
Absolutely.
And there was a kid screaming at the top of his lungs. I believe it was a male. And I remember just going back and typing that. Those screams just went through me. I had to shut my laptop and just cry. I just bawled because I had completely forgotten about it. But the kid was screaming and crying because he was a burn victim. So he had to go through what they call debridement, I think it was, where they submerged him into a tub to get all that excess burned skin off of him. And that just tore me up, just having to rewrite that moment and thinking and listening, just hearing that kid screaming. I'm thinking, oh my God. I mean, it's not just about my pain. It's about the pain that surrounds me with other children. There were kids that were going through so much. And I was in a room with one girl. She was on a horse and fell off the horse and fell under it. She said she did all she could to hold on to that horse. And that horse, when she couldn't hold on anymore, it trampled her and broke her up. So she was badly broken up, worse than I ever could have been. And those two incidences came back to me, and it just hit me the hardest because it was like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to finish this book. This is too much. But that drive would not let me give up, and I'm so glad I made it through. It took 10 years, like I said, but I made it through, and I got it done because I know now I had to go through what I did in order to encourage others. And that was my main goal. Now that I look back, at first I didn't know that was the goal until after I finished it. And then I'm like, oh my God, I don't know who's going to need this, but whoever's going to need it, I hope it does for them what other books have done for me to encourage them to keep it going. I mean, I'm going to keep coming back to that thing. Keep it going. There's too many people who are victims of successful suicide that I had experience with in my family and friends. And it's just almost like if you only could keep that encouragement, if we stop looking at what's happening right now, that horrible thing that's happening right now at this moment, and believe that it can get better, something on the other side of waiting to make life better, then suicide wouldn't even be an option. And that was one of the things that's the worst for me, to have to hear that somebody thought that this was it. This is how life is going to be forever. And it does not have to be that way. So, okay, I'm back. Okay, I went somewhere for a minute, but I'm back.
No, listen, Marvina, this has been, like I said, absolutely inspirational and so enlightening. Guys, listen, at the end of the day, what I think is another thing that's really profound to be able to be taken from this is understanding that we're all connected in that way, right? Like, I think it's naturally, I think what's natural is when we're going through our share of challenges, whatever it may be, I think we have a tendency as human beings, and just speaking from my own experience, of course, we have the tendency to think that I'm the only person going through this. This is only happening to me, right? And I think that there's so much to what you said in terms of you have this disease that has given you so many challenges over the years. But you're also talking about how, there were other people that you encountered that, have it really bad as well, right? And I think it could have been very easy for you to just stop and say, well, this is only happening to me. This is a disease that I'm stuck with. And then you allow it to overcome, and you allow yourself to succumb to the depression and everything else that is accumulated with it. But you saw past it, and you understood that by putting this book out, it's going to really help people connect and help people understand that you're not going through this by yourself. Other people are also facing their share of challenges and adversity. And as you've stated, you just have to keep going. And when you keep going, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. That tunnel might seem so far away, but there's a light there. And you just got to keep on going until you find it. And I think that is so profound. Listen, Marvina, this has been absolutely wonderful. Guys, one more time, here on the line with Marvina Sims. We're discussing her book, Brittle Never Broken, available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Now, if that wasn't enough to really get your blood going, to really inspire you and motivate you and, just wake you up. Marvina has written 2 other books as well, okay? And I wanted to give a little bit of time to quickly go into them, okay? Now, we have 2 books. One is called Misogyny, and then the other one is called All Lives Matter. Now, listen, we're going to go quickly into both of them. And I would like for you to give us just a brief synopsis, Marvina, because, of course, listen, the highlight of the interview, really what brought us here was Brittle Never Broken. So we don't want to take too much away from that. But I do want to give you that extra marketing and advertisement there. Now, I'm kind of curious on the All Lives Matter, okay? Now, from doing the research, I know it's a collection of poems and things that way. But, of course, as we know in our current state that we're facing here in the United States, that all lives matter has almost become a controversial term. So I'm really curious about that. If you can go into each one of those titles, please give us a brief synopsis and talk to us a little bit about it, please.
Okay, no problem. The All Lives Matter, I decided to go with that title because I felt like a lot of the things that inspired me to write the poems was most women issues that women have to deal with in a patriarchal society. People with disabilities, the things they have to go through. And of course, the biggest issue now is the Black lives. And I wanted to make it known that it is all of these lives that matter, even though they include these individual lives. So, yeah, I agree that, we need to make it known because in light of all the Blacks that are being killed senselessly, that, Black lives definitely matter. But I just wanted to also make it known that there are so many lives out here that everyone's lives matter. Even
Absolutely.
To me, plant lives matters. Animals matter. But, I just decided to go with that. And I did do some tributes to honor Black lives as far as Eric Garner. At the time I wrote the book, that he was murdered by police. And Sandra Bland, she was also murdered in jail. So I put specific poems about those 2 situations in there. But yes, I wanted everyone to know that all lives do matter, and I am for all lives mattering.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very much for clarifying that. For me, that was one of those things where I knew you didn't purposely put that in there, of course, to, build on that controversy. Again, as I did the research on it, I figured out what it was about. And of course, that is the inherent message that way. But people will generally formulate assumptions. And, this is always a good platform to kind of dispel any notions that way and give you the room to clear the air. So thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
Now,
thank you.
Misogyny. Tell us about that one, please.
Okay, Misogyny is a compilation of short stories, poetry, proses, and I wanted to make the short stories in regards to different situations that happens in life. One of the things, well, if you say the name of the title fast enough, you'll know what it's really about. And I like to highlight domestic violence because I am a domestic violence advocate. So that was one of the main, that story, Misogyny, is in there. And that was one of the highlights of things to get people to see that domestic violence is definitely an issue in society globally.
Absolutely.
And likewise, within that, I have a story in regards to a male who is inducted into the military and he gets raped. And that's one of the most taboo discussions in our society. We talk about rape, but we mostly have it in light of women being raped. But there is an issue in the military where so many men are being raped and not getting justice for it. And so I did my research and it blew my mind. So I had to tell someone's story in Misogyny. So I got also the name, it may be seeming like it's prejudice against women, but there are men who are also being hurt greatly in our society.
Fantastic stuff, Marvina. This is absolutely incredible, guys. Listen, I mean, there's some heavy content here, but always within each one of these titles that we've addressed, the underlying message is so profound and is so powerful. Do yourself a favor, head on over to Amazon or Barnes and Noble, pick up your copy of Brittle Never Broken, and listen, don't stop there. Pick up Massage Ginny and All Lives Matter. They're also available there by Marvina Sims. You surely will not be disappointed. But also, if you want to check out a little bit more, go on to YouTube and search Brittle Never Broken. Marvina actually has a book trailer on there, and it'll give you a little bit more information on the book as well. Listen, take advantage of these fantastic titles. As I stated, you definitely will not be disappointed. There's really something in there for everyone, and so much education to be learned and to be gained from these titles. Marvina, this has absolutely been inspiring. Thank you so much for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction.
Thank you. I appreciate being able to tell the information people need to hear. Encouragement is definitely my motto.